Hello learners, welcome to Education Online program. I'm teacher Regina Massimo, teaching you biology for senior 3 and 4. Our topic is the structures of respiratory system in fish. In our previous lesson, we learned about the structures of respiratory system in human being, and we said human being under class Mammalia. That means the mammals represented by human being. Now today we are coming to talk about the respiratory system in the fish. So all these animals, the human being, fish, frogs, birds, these are all vertebrates under subphylum vertebrates, but they differ. They have some differences. These differences result of what? Their metabolic state and their environment. That's why the variation in the animals' metabolic states and their environment determine the differences in the gas exchanger system. So the differences in the metabolic state and the environment where the living organism live determines the differences in the gas exchanger system. When we learn about this respiratory system in human being, we learn that lungs are the organs where the gas exchange take place. Now in the fish, the organ for gas exchange is different, because the environment where the fish lives is different from the environment where the mammals or the human being lives. Human being live on land, while the fish live in water. So that environment of fish is called aquatic environment. So we want to look at the structures of respiratory system in fish. Let me list the structures down first. These are the structures. 1, mouth of the fish. Number 2, the pharynx. Number 3, gills. So this is the sketch of fish here. This is the mouth. Water flow in through mouth. Fish get their oxygen from the surrounding water, because the oxygen dissolves in that water. Therefore, the water is drawn in. Water is drawn into the body through the mouth. Through the mouth. Then it passes through pharynx to reach the gills. That means the mouth is just a pathway for water. When it reaches to the pharynx here, pharynx also a pathway for the water. But when this here you can see there's a gap between the pharynx and the gills, and this gap is left here for water flow, so that the water can flow over the gills, where the oxygen from the water is absorbed through the gills filament. So pharynx is just pathway of water, or water pathway. For the water to reach the gills should pass through the pharynx, and there is a gap between the pharynx and the gills to allow water flow. Coming to the gills here. Gills is the organ, respiratory organ, where the gas exchange occur or take place. Occurs. When you look at the gills here, it is well equipped with filaments. It's well equipped with filaments. So the water enter through the mouth, then reaching to the pharynx here, will start moving outwards. The water will move outwards towards the operculum. This operculum is the hard structure that protecting the gills. That's why gills is protecting under operculum. The water drawn through mouth, reaching the pharynx, then we start moving to the outwards to the operculum, so that to flow over the gills. So as the water passes over the gill filament, as the water passes over the gill filament, the oxygen molecules is absorbed or diffuse out of the water to the gill filaments. That oxygen diffuse out of the water to the blood capillaries. So when that oxygen diffuse into blood capillaries, that blood, the oxygenated blood, will be carried into the body. So Now I'm trying to explain the gas exchange that occurs in the gills. When the water is taken, reaching the furnace, will start coming outward towards the operculum, so that it passes over the gills filament. So as the water passes over the gills filament, the oxygen in that water will diffuse into the blood capillaries. Then that oxygenated blood will be carried into the body, while the carbon dioxide diffuses out of the bloodstream of the fish. While the carbon dioxide molecules diffuse out of the blood stream of the fish, into the water, and that water will flow out of the body of the fish. Here water flows over gills, then out. So the one getting out is carrying carbon dioxide into the water, the carbon dioxide that diffuse out of the bloodstream of the fish. Then it comes back into the water to be sent into the water after the oxygen was exhausted. So this how gas exchange take place in the gills. Last time we said the respiratory system functionally is divided into two. There is a conducting zone and respiratory zone. Conducting zones are the parts of respiratory system they only allow the air to pass or the liquid to pass by, while the respiratory zone is the part of respiratory system where the gas exchange takes place. In human being, the gas exchange takes place in the lungs, while those of nasal cavity, pharynx, even the trachea, they are under conducting zone, while the lungs is a respiratory zone. In the case of fish, now mouth, pharynx are classified as mouth, pharynx. They are conducting zone. Because they are the one allowing the liquid or the water to pass so that to reach to the gills. Then gills is classified as respiratory zone, because this is where the gas exchange occur. So gills have many functions, not only gas exchange. There are other functions. That's why it's said to be multi-functional organ in the respiratory system of fish. Let us look at this function. Gills are multi-functional organ. Let us look at these functions. Function number 1, which is gas exchange. Gas exchange. Yes, it is an organ of respiratory system in fish where gases are exchanged. Oxygens are absorbed or diffused into the bloodstream, while the carbon dioxide is diffused out of blood stream in the fish, and we talk about that one. Let's come to see the function number 2 is the Osmo Regulation. Osmo Regulation. Osmo Regulation, this name is extracted from osmosis. That means how to control this osmotic process. Osmosis is all about the movement of water from high concentrated region to the low concentrated region. As we know, fish lives in a water. Some of the fish, they live in fresh water, and some of them live in seawater or salt water. Seawater is salty. That's why we call it salty. Fish live, some of them live in fresh water, and some of them live in seawater or salt water. Fresh water, the salt in fresh water, it is the concentration of the salt in fresh water is low, while the salt in seawater is high. The concentration is very high. So the fish that live in fresh water, you'll find the body fluid of that fish having high concentration when compared to the concentration of the fresh water. Since the body fluid is high concentrated, and the surrounding water with low concentration, these fish facing problem. What are these problems? Entry of water into the body. These are the problem faced by fresh water fish. Entry of water into the body. The second problem, loss of salt. Loss of salt from the body. Water is very important for body as well as the salt, and they have their optimum level. Too much water in the body can cause problem. Less salt in the body can cause problem. That's why we said these are the type of problem faced by fish living in a fresh water. Entering of water or loss of salt, this is the process of, is called osmotic process. Need to be controlled, need to be regulated That's why we said Osmo Regulation. And this Osmo Regulation is carried by the gills. So here, the fish will solve this problem. Excess of the water is eliminated by kidney. And at the same time, because losing salt is a problem, it tries to keep the salt in the body. So how is this problem solved? In this case, the fish eliminate fairly dilute urine. This is how freshwater fish solve their problem. Freshwater fish, fresh water fish, they face problem of entry of water, then loss of salt. Then these problems are solved as follows: eliminating excess water by kidney. Then the process of losing salt, it doesn't want to lose the salt, so here they solve this problem by eliminating fairly dilute urine. And this one, the elimination of dilute urine take place through the gills. We shall come and learn that one of the functions is the excretion. Then the seawater fish. Let's come to see the seawater fish. What are the problems they are facing and how do they regulate it or they solve it? This under Osmo Regulation. Seawater or salt water fish. This type of fish, the body fluid, the concentration of the body fluid is low when compared to the surrounding water, because the surrounding water contain high concentration of salt. So the problem this fish experiencing is loss of water from the body, then entry of salt into the body. Too much salt in the body is a problem. Losing water will cause dehydration. That's also a problem. So here, what they do, they keep the urine in their blood and tissues to raise the concentration of their body fluid. This problem, the two problems, are solved by keeping the urine in their cells or tissues, that to raise the concentration of their body fluid. That's why some of the fish, when we eat it, we experience some smell of urine. So that means this type of fish living in sea water, which is salt water, the body fluid concentration is low compared to the concentration of the surrounding water. Then they're experiencing the problem of losing water and causing dehydration and entry of salt into the body. Therefore, to solve this problem, they keep the urine in the tissue to raise the concentration of their body so that they have the same level of the concentration. Then the last function of gills is excretion of nitrogenous waste. This is the third function of gills. Excretion of the nitrogenous waste. What do we mean by nitrogenous waste? This is the urine. The urine is eliminated through the gills, like the example given in fresh water fish. They're experiencing too much entry of water into the body and loss of salt. So they solve the problem by eliminating the excess water by the kidney. Then the urine, they're eliminating it through the gills, and that urine is a very dilute urine. So thanks for listening. Up to here, we are done with our lesson of today. We meet next